Oh, hi there. I hadn't made a video in a few days, and I had some things to attend to, so I'm going to get back to it now. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the supposed North Korean missile test over Japan and my reason for believing that it was fake. The story was made up by the media. They had the reasons for doing it, but did North Korea actually fire a missile over northern Japan? I highly doubt it. Um, the thing is, there's no getting around it. If Japan, uh, you know, had, some sort of trust in North Korea and allowed them to fire a missile anywhere near them, um, that sounds totally preposterous. No country trusts any other country to fire missiles above them. I bet the Canada and the United States don't even trust each other not to do that. Anyway, yeah, uh, because this would result in World War III, having North Korea firing missiles at the Japanese, and it doesn't make any sense. Um, Also, the way that's how it's been portrayed doesn't make any sense either. Like on Western media, it's like whatever. Uh, they don't care that much. I mean, it's been brought up, but next week Kim Jong Un will get up to something else, and this will get forgotten about. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when they were threatening to fire a missile over Guam. Um, and that sort of petered out, and everybody lost interest because the media has a way of telling people so that it kind of gets in the back of their heads, but they don't understand it. It doesn't hit them like a sack of potatoes. They don't really care. Now, I don't know what the media sounds like in Japan, but over here where I live, it doesn't sound like that at all. You look up on the Google video and the YouTube on, video surveillance of this supposed test, and there isn't any to be found. You get your standard missile launch startups videos and things like that. You get some pictures of or diagrams of where the missile's trajectory was. Um, there is the odd clip of sirens being sound in northern Japan. Perhaps there is video evidence of some sort of projectile in northern Japan, but I would believe if there were that it would be the Japanese government who fired that missile. Um, because the idea that the North Koreans fired this missile, the Japanese trusting him to do so and not doing anything about it is ludicrous. Um, if the North Koreans fired a missile, the Japanese could easily intercept it with, more modern, up-to-date ballistic missile capability. The only way I think they could possibly get away with it is if the Chinese had intervened and flexed their military muscle. Uh, that would be the only way I would think North Korea could possibly get away with this. Because it is the reason why North Korea has gotten away with, being North Korea for so long, is because Big Brother's right there. Um, because obviously the Chinese don't want any kind of serious military intervention against fellow Asian countries in anywhere near their border. So, I mean, they're not going to ask the North Koreans if they can stick their nose into the things, but they're just going to do it. Anyway, I looked up this old YouTuber I used to watch a little bit, but he got a bit stale, so I couldn't be bothered anymore. Jason Unruh, because I knew he would make a video of this, and sure enough, he did. Um, he talked about the statistical stuff. The mainstream media says missile was fired over northern Japan. The prime minister of Japan had this to say, and usual kind of stuff the mainstream media says. So he basically just reiterated what news outlets over here would say. And then he proceeded to repeat his usual stance on the subject that the North Koreans have the right to defend themselves against imperialist powers, specifically the United States, that they need this capability to defend themselves. And he listed off other countries in the area that, not in the area, but, like Libya, Iraq, that sort of stuff, and the reasons why they got invaded and the reasons why North Korea has not been invaded, and use that as justification for what North Korea is doing. Um, but I figured, well, okay, maybe Jason Derulo's made a video in the last little while saying what North Korean relations is like with the Chinese, because I doubt they're very good. The North Koreans are starving, and the Chinese aren't doing that much in the way of food imports or exports or any of that sort of stuff. They just can't be bothered. We don't even really know. That's a totally different world. But I figured I'd look it up because I know that they don't particularly like each other. And coincidentally, I looked back 3 years from his videos, and he made another video that was quite interesting, and it wasn't actually a bad video. It was about a supposed North Korean spy drone that crash landed in South Korea, and it was proven to be fake. That the South Korean news outlet had faked the story. He made two videos about it. One in comparing it to the toilet door, a portable toilet door, which was kind of funny. And what did he say? He said, to digitally alter an image to present something that is not true is false. I agree with him there. And I think that any imagery that may come out saying that a missile has been fired from North Korea over Japan will be digitally altered, if there's any at all. I haven't seen one, and I've been looking. Jason Unruh wasn't going to say that, though. I mean, that is the obvious argument. I'm sure he's thought about that. But at this point, it's pretty hard to justify that North Korea is just doing it for self-defense when they could fire the missile in a different direction and still make their point quite clear. But no, this time they fired it over one of their enemies in the area, according to the official narrative. So I'm finding it, just a little bit absurd, all of it. None of it sounds true at all. And I think there's a lot of argument going on there. There's most certainly military political leaders in the area that do not like each other. And, things could go sideways given the right circumstances. And obviously that would not benefit anyone. But to say anything immediately is happening right now is not true, because the media outlets out here aren't talking about it that much. It's on the news, but next week it'll be forgotten about. And this is important because it's desensitizing people to the idea of missiles being fired from here to there. I mean, surely people remember the tension between Cuba and the United States when that happened, and subsequently what happened to Cuba afterwards. Because in the textbooks they hammer home that the Cubans got their way with the Bay of Pigs. They had missiles, and this, that, and the other, and Fidel Castro, a big man who stood up to the United States. But as far as Cuba itself goes, it didn't do them any good for a long time. It made things a lot worse for them, as a matter of fact. So it wasn't worth them doing it at all. But that picture doesn't really get painted in high school textbooks. I'm probably not even college and university. I wouldn't even be surprised. Could be wrong though. I didn't go to university or college, so but yeah, whatever. So yeah, main points I wanted to make was the only way I believe North Korea could actually get away with firing a missile anywhere near Japan is if they had the backing of the Chinese military powers. In which case, this is a powder keg. It's World War III waiting to happen. And for uh, Kim Jong Un to beat his chest and strut about and have a laugh, it doesn't sound like enough of a reason to even contemplating starting a World War III. So I think that's all bogus. And Jason Unruh's video, he had nothing to say. That was the bottom line. He had to make a video, and he knew he couldn't defend from his previous rhetoric what North Korean has done. This is open provocation if it were true, but he also doesn't want to backtrack and say, well, it's not true and this and that and the other, because it goes against his narrative. He's contradicting himself. Um, anyway, that's my opinion on it. I don't think it happened at all. If it did, it would be a lot louder on the television than it is. And the only way they could have gotten away with doing it is if the Chinese military uh, had some say in it. North Korea on its own, absolutely no way. And this is all assuming they have the capability. I'm not entirely convinced that they do. It isn't as easy to build those missiles as people think they are. I mean, the American ones, the old ones, cost $1 million each to make. North Korea is a very poor country with nothing in it. They've managed to eke by on an existence the way they have, by basically clinging on for dear life. Kim Jong Un may be a big fat ass, but he's probably the only fat person in North Korea. Um, one thing I want to make clear is the availability of food and military hardware. They're both associated with being wealthy, but neither one of them are connected. You can have military hardware and have no food, or you can have food and no military hardware. That's just the way it is. One can become more valuable than the other, depending on what region and your circumstances are. So anyway, those were the points I wanted to make, and I'll talk to you guys later. I want to get back into making videos real quickly. Anyway, have a good one.